Okay, sixth graders, let's start annotating for super cute puppies. Make sure that you are taking a look at your annotation guide at the top. I'm going to model the first few for you, and then the rest is just going to be read aloud, and you will annotate on your own. The fish spare didn't work. He stood in the shallows and waited again and again. The small fish came closer and closer, and he lunged time after time, but it was always too slow. He tried throwing it, jabbing it, everything, but flailing with it, and it didn't work. The fish were just too fast. So already in this situation, we do see some repetition in these cases. But at the same time, because that's not part of our super cute puppies annotation guide, that's not what you're annotating for right now. And we also see character reactions because he decided to make a spear to catch the fish. He had been so sure, so absolutely certain that it would work the night before. So pause right here, go ahead. This is a moment of point of view. So look at your annotation guide and see what you're supposed to draw when you know that there's a moment of point of view. Right, so you should have an eye drawn right here because this is kind of any moment of inner dialogue is point of view. We know what's going on inside his head. His perspective is that he had been so sure that it would work. Sitting by the fire, he had taken the willow and carefully peeled the bark until he had a straight staff about 6 feet long, just under an inch thick at the base, the thickest end. So right now I want you to stop and jot the central idea. Remember, that's a one-sentence summary. Remember, whenever you are annotating for central idea, don't just write the words central idea. Some of us are still doing that. You actually write a one-sentence summary of these two paragraphs that we've read so far. Unpause when you're done. Then, propping the hatchet in a crack in the rock wall, he had pulled the head off his spear against it, carving a thin piece off each time until the thick end tapered down to a needle point. Still not satisfied, he could not imagine hitting one of the fish with a single point. He carefully used the hatchet to split the point up the middle for 8 or 10 inches and jammed the piece of wood up into the split to make a two-pronged spear with the points about 2 inches apart. For those of you right now that are a bit confused about this is what a spear looks like. Okay, and he's trying to make one to catch the fish. He only has wood, so he's using his hatchet to sharpen the end. So imagine that this is a piece of wood right now. He's trying to make it super sharp so that it can stab through a fish. Then, propping the hatchet in the cracked wall, he had pulled the head of his spear against it, carving a thin piece off each time until the thick end tapered down to a needle point. Still not satisfied, he could not imagine hitting one of the fish with a single point. He carefully used the hatchet to split the point up the middle for 8 or 10 inches and jammed a piece of wood up into the split to make a two-pronged spear with the points about 2 inches apart. It was crude, but it looked effective, and it seemed to have a good balance when he stood outside the shelter and hefted his spear. He had worked on the fish spear until it had become more than just a tool. He'd spent hours and hours on it, and now it still didn't work. He moved into the shallows and stood, and the fish came to him. Just as before, they swarmed around his legs, some of them almost 6 inches long. But no matter how hard he tried, they were too fast. At first, he tried throwing it, but that had no chance. As soon as he brought his arm back, well before he threw, the movement frightened them. So again, imagine that sort of you're standing still in the water and then all the fish start to swarm around. And the second he moves, the second he tries to get this spear to hit them, they all flutter and swim away. Let's keep reading. As soon as he brought his arm back, next he tried lunging at them, having the spear ready just above the water and thrusting with it. Finally, he actually put the spear in the water and waited until the fish were right in front of it. But still, somehow he telegraphed his motion before he thrust, and they saw it and flashed away. So these fish are really quick. Right now, I want you to go ahead, take a look at your annotation guide, pause the video, and make sure you have annotated for any super cute puppies you can find right here. Definitely make sure you have at least the central idea written down because we just read a lot. He needed something to spring the spear forward, some way to make it move faster than the fish, some motive force, a string that snapped or a bow. A bow and arrow, a thin, long arrow with the point in the water, and the bow pulled back so that all he had to do was release the arrow. Yes, that was it. So definitely make sure you're annotating for point of view right here because we are seeing an idea that's going on inside his head. He decides that, you know what, I cannot get my spear to move fast enough into the water before the fish fly away, but I'm going to make a bow and arrow. If you don't know what that is, look right here. So this is sort of what a bow and arrow looks like. You may be familiar with the look of you kind of can pull back this string and then it snaps the arrow into the water. And that's how he's going to try and stab the fish. He had to invent the bow and arrow. He almost laughed as he moved out of the water and put his shoes on. The morning sun was getting hot and he took his shirt off. So make sure you have setting annotated right here. This is a detail about our setting. And again, you should have a lot more annotated than just the few things I pointed out along the way. Maybe that was how it really happened, way back when. Some primitive, that means early, man tried to spear fish and it didn't work, and he invented the bow and arrow. Maybe it was always that way. Discoveries happened because they needed to happen. So we can make a connection right here to when we learned about hunters and gatherers. Early people, this is how they were able to collect their food. The hunters we talk about, this is what they had to do. So Brian is sort of living like a hunter and gatherer right now because he doesn't have the benefits of new society. He had not eaten anything, yet this morning he took a moment to dig up the eggs and eat one. When he reburied them, he banked the fire with a couple thicker pieces of wood, settled the hatchet on his belt and took the spear in his right hand and set off up the lake to find wood to make a bow. He went on without a shirt, but something about the wood smoke smell on him kept the insects from bothering him as he walked to the berry patch. So right here, I know I'm going to annotate for character change, and my key tells me to put CC, because this is a change that our character has seen. There used to be insects all over him, but now there are not. The raspberries were starting to become overripe just in 2 days, and he would have to pick as many as possible after he found the wood, but he did take a little time now to pick a few of them and eat them. They were full and sweet, and when he picked one, 2 others would fall off the limbs into the grass, and soon his hands and cheeks were covered with red berry juice, and he was full. That surprised him, being full. He hadn't thought he would ever be full again. He knew only the hunger, and here he was full. 1 turtle egg and a few handfuls of berries, and he felt full. He looked down at his stomach and saw that it was still caved in, did not bulge as it would have with 2 hamburgers and a Freezy slush. It must have shrunk. And there was still hunger there, but not like it was, not tearing at him. This was hunger that he knew would be there always, even when he had food. A hunger that made him look for things, see things. A hunger to make him hunt. He swung his eyes across the berries to make sure the bear wasn't there, at his back. Then he moved down to the lake. The spear went out before him automatically, moving the brush away from his face as he walked, and when he came to the water's edge, he swung left. Not sure what he was looking for, not knowing what wood might be best for a bow. He had never made a bow, never shot a bow in his life, but it seemed that it would be along the lake, near the water. So again, a bow is this part that you use to shoot an arrow. He saw some young birch, and they were springy, but they lacked snap somehow, as did the willows. Not enough whip back. So again, that stuff he's using is this part right here. It's like with your hand, you pull on this, snap it back, and the arrow comes shooting forward. So he's also trying to find something elastic enough that's going to make it push forward. Halfway up the lake, just as he started to step over a log, he was absolutely terrified by an explosion under his feet. Something like a feathered bomb blew up and away in a flurry of leaves and thunder. It frightened him so badly that he fell back and down, and then it was gone, leaving only an image in his mind. A bird it had been, about the size of a very small chicken with only a fantail and stubby wings that slammed against its body and made a loud noise. Noise there and gone. He got up and brushed himself off. The bird had been speckled, brown and gray, and it must not be very smart because Brian's foot had been nearly on it before it flew. Half a second more and he would have stepped on it. And caught it, he thought, and eaten it. He might be able to catch one or spear one. Maybe he thought, maybe it tasted like chicken. Maybe he could catch one or spear one, and it probably did taste just like chicken. Just like chicken when his mother baked it in the oven with garlic and salt, and it turned golden brown and crackled. All right, pause right here. Maybe you're a little bit into the story and you forgot to be annotating. Go ahead, make sure that you annotate everything we just read. Don't unpause the video until you have annotated at least 5 more different super cute puppies. All right, awesome, and welcome back. So right now, I want you to go ahead and click on the next video. This one is about to run out of time, so click on the link right below on the independent agenda, and it's going to be the rest of the read aloud.